All right, so uh, are you ready to step back in time a bit?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so remember all those like kind of chilling headlines we all saw about like satanic cults and hidden rituals and like dangers lurking everywhere in the shadows?
Oh, yeah. Right.
That's what we're diving into today. Like right into the heart of the satanic panic.
Yeah.
And the book that really like fueled the flames of all of it, The Satan Seller by Mike Warkey.
It's amazing to think about how this book, it was published way back in 72.
Right.
It really like captured the anxieties of like a whole generation,
Yeah.
and became this like cultural touchstone for like all the fears that just exploded in the 80s and 90s. It was like everyone was looking into this like dark mirror,
Yeah.
and it reflected all the uncertainties of the time.
It's so true. And you sent over such a fascinating collection of sources for this one.
Oh, yeah.
You've got excerpts from a podcast that's like really dissecting the book.
Yeah.
Interviews with Warkey himself. And then that incredible expose that finally like revealed the truth behind all those shocking claims.
Oh, yeah.
So let's unpack this whole thing together.
Let's do it.
What I think is so interesting is like how a story with such lurid details,
Yeah.
like satanic rituals and orgies and demonic influence.
Right.
How did that manage to capture like the public imagination
Totally.
and become so widely accepted as fact?
Right.
It's crazy.
It all starts with Mike Warkey.
Yeah.
He's this charismatic figure
Right.
who claims to be like this former high priest of Satanism, but then like finds redemption through Christianity.
Right.
So his story is like both captivating and terrifying at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think that's why people were drawn to it.
Totally. So before we like dive into the whole satanic underworld that he describes,
Okay.
let's take a look at like Warkey's own background.
Yeah.
What do we actually know about him?
So he claims to have this really troubled past, like a difficult childhood, almost like something out of like a gritty crime novel. And he paints this picture of his father
Right.
as like this gangster involved in all sorts of shady dealings.
Yeah, and his mother's death plays a pivotal role in his story too.
Oh, totally.
Like it makes him practically an orphan.
Right.
And it's this classic tale of hardship and abandonment that really adds this like layer of sympathy to his whole persona.
Right. But that cornerstone expose that really like meticulously investigated all of Warkey's claims, it revealed a totally different picture.
Oh, really?
It turns out that while his father did struggle with alcohol, he wasn't this like hardened criminal figure that Warkey made him out to be.
So the seeds of embellishment were sown pretty early on, huh?
Yeah. I mean, even the podcast that we have,
Yeah.
it mentions how like even his high school friends,
Oh, wow.
they recall him being kind of a storyteller,
Right.
always spinning these yarns and adopting different personas.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Almost like he was rehearsing for the grand performance that would become the Satan Seller.
Totally.
So then he moves to California, falls in with the wrong crowd, experiments with drugs, and that's where his whole portrayal of the satanic underworld really kicks in.
It's a wild ride.
It is, right?
He describes this highly organized satanic church
Right.
with hierarchical structures,
Oh, wow.
secret handshakes, ritualistic sacrifices,
Yeah.
all these things that play into our deepest fears about like secret societies and dark forces at work.
Totally. It's like chills.
But even within all these like detailed descriptions that the podcast points out,
Yeah.
some cracks start to appear.
You're right. Like, what about the part where he describes drug dealers just like giving away marijuana for free
Yeah.
until you're like totally hopelessly hooked?
Right.
It just seems a little too over the top,
Yeah.
even for the supposed depths of the satanic underworld. It feels more like a caricature of how people perceived drug culture at the time, rather than like a realistic depiction.
Right.
And then there's like the portrayal of women in this satanic world.
Okay.
Their primary roles seem to be like providing sex,
Oh, wow.
making sandwiches,
Okay.
and occasionally offering interior design advice.
It's like the Satan Seller unintentionally makes Satanism seem
yeah,
incredibly boring.
right.
It's like all meetings and logistics and internal squabbles.
Totally.
More like a dysfunctional office than a den of evil.
Exactly. It's almost comical in a way.
Yeah.
And this humor isn't lost on the podcast hosts.
Right.
They do a brilliant job of dissecting the absurdity of some of Warkey's claims.
Okay, so let's get back to like Warkey's role in all this.
Okay.
He paints himself as this master manipulator.
Right.
effortlessly recruiting all these like vulnerable hippies into Satanism
Mm-hmm.
with these vague promises of like love and acceptance.
Yeah.
It's almost too easy how he describes swaying these so-called empty vessels.
What's interesting there is that the podcast hosts actually point out how Warkey's description of his satanic recruitment tactics
Wow.
actually mirrors the techniques often used by evangelical preachers themselves,
Oh, wow.
appealing to emotion,
Right.
offering a sense of belonging,
Yeah.
promising purpose.
It's like he's projecting his own methods onto the enemy he's trying to create.
Precisely, he essentially creates this like distorted reflection of his own world,
Yeah.
making it seem like this like battle between good and evil,
Yeah.
light and darkness.
Right. But as Warkey continues his supposed ascent within the satanic hierarchy,
Yeah.
his descriptions become even more outlandish.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking mind control potions.
Wow.
Demons appearing at like the slightest mistake.
Oh, my God.
Pressure to perform increasingly violent rituals.
It's as if he's trying to outdo himself with each new chapter.
Yeah.
Piling on these sensational details that play into people's deepest fears about the satanic threat. And that's where it gets really disturbing.
There's that one particularly chilling episode where he describes orchestrating a gang rape,
Yeah.
almost casually,
Right.
as if it were just an insignificant event.
Uh-huh.
And then he just moves on as if it were nothing.
That's where the line between storytelling
Yeah.
and something far more sinister really blurs.
Right.
It raises serious questions about Warkey's motivations
Totally.
and his understanding of the gravity of such actions.
It's almost like he included that detail for shock value,
Yeah.
to solidify his image as someone who had truly descended into the depths of evil.
Exactly, and that's where his supposed conversion to Christianity comes in, right on cue.
Yeah.
This like dramatic, almost miraculous transformation
Huh.
sparked by a chance encounter with a Bible verse
Okay.
and fueled by his newfound love for like a wholesome Christian woman.
It's all very theatrical and convenient,
Yeah.
almost like a Hollywood redemption arc.
Right.
But it perfectly sets up the narrative that he would spend the rest of his career peddling. That even someone as steeped in Satanism as he claimed to be
Yeah.
could find salvation.
And that narrative, despite its like simplicity and sensationalism,
Yeah.
it really resonated with people.
Yeah.
He really tapped into this like cultural current of like fear and anxiety,
Uh-huh.
particularly among those who saw all the changes happening in society, like
Right.
the rise of counterculture and all that,
Right.
and saw it as like signs of a spiritual battle,
It's like he provided this like concrete enemy,
Yeah,
a way to like make sense of all the things that just felt unsettling or threatening.
totally. And of course, his personal redemption story,
Right.
it offered this glimmer of hope. Like
Yeah.
if someone as bad as Warkey could find salvation,
Uh-huh.
then anyone could.
This is where that cornerstone expose becomes so crucial.
Oh, absolutely.
They really went above and beyond to debunk Warkey's story,
They did.
piece by piece.
Yeah.
Through like meticulous fact-checking.
Like real investigative journalism.
It's amazing.
They tracked down college roommates,
Wow.
family members,
Huh?
even military records,
Oh, wow.
just to expose the inconsistencies and outright fabrications in the Satan cellar.
It's crazy how they dismantled not just the dramatic claims, but even like seemingly minor details.
Oh, yeah.
Like Warkey describing all these injuries from his satanic days.
Okay.
Like bullet wounds and stab wounds and missing fingers.
Right, right.
But his college roommates who saw him every day said
Yeah.
he was perfectly fine.
Exactly. The expose revealed that Warkey was never this like long-haired, drug-addled, satanic high priest.
Right.
He was just this relatively clean-cut guy
Wow.
who went to a Christian college
Really?
and even got married
Oh my God.
while supposedly immersed in this like dark underworld.
It's almost as if he cherry-picked elements of his own life, like his father's struggles,
Okay.
a brief period of like exploring Catholicism,
Right.
his time in the Navy,
Yeah.
and just warped them into this lurid narrative
Yeah.
to fit what people were already primed to believe about Satanism.
What's particularly striking is that Warkey's deception
Yeah.
was ultimately exposed by fellow Christians,
Right.
like Cornerstone Magazine,
Yeah.
a publication rooted in a Christian community.
Right.
They felt this responsibility to uncover the truth.
They recognized him as a fraud who was exploiting people's fears for his own gain.
Right, he was selling books and records,
Yeah.
filling auditoriums with these like dramatic tales,
Huh.
and making a profit off this fabricated satanic past.
The impact of the Cornerstone expose went beyond just simply debunking one man's story.
Totally.
It really challenged the broader narrative of the Satanic Panic
Uh-huh.
and exposed the hypocrisy within certain segments of the evangelical movement.
It was a powerful statement.
Yeah.
Like, we need to be more discerning,
Right.
more critical,
Uh-huh.
more focused on truth than on sensationalism.
Yeah.
Even if it means questioning things we already believe.
This raises such an important point about critical thinking.
Absolutely.
Especially when we're faced with narratives that prey on our fears.
Yeah.
The Satan Seller gained traction because it offered this simple explanation for complex issues.
Right.
Provided a scapegoat for like societal anxieties
Mm-hmm.
and confirmed people's existing biases.
It's human nature to be drawn to a story.
Yeah.
Especially one that's like emotionally charged
Totally.
and seems to validate our worldview.
But the story of the Satan Seller,
Right.
it really serves as this stark reminder to pause,
Yeah.
to question our assumptions,
Uh-huh.
and to look for evidence before we just accept something as the truth.
It's also a cautionary tale about the dangers of charismatic figures
Yes.
who exploit people's fears and beliefs for personal gain.
Right.
Warkey wasn't just a storyteller.
Mhm.
He was a master manipulator
Yeah.
who built an entire career on deception.
And sadly, the ripple effects of his lies extended far beyond just book sales.
Mhm.
They actually contributed to the toxic atmosphere of the Satanic Panic,
Right.
which led to false accusations, wrongful convictions, and this climate of fear that just deeply damaged lives and communities.
Even after the Cornerstone expose,
I know.
Warren Warkey continued to profit from his fabricated story,
Right.
refusing to admit any wrongdoing.
Oh, wow.
He claimed any inconsistencies were just like memory lapses
Oh, my God.
or embellishments by his ghostwriters.
It's as though he doubled down on the deception.
Yeah.
And tragically, a portion of his audience continued to believe him.
It's a stark illustration of how deeply ingrained certain narratives can become,
Right.
even in the face of overwhelming evidence.
This brings us to a crucial takeaway from this whole deep dive.
Okay.
The story of the Satan Seller really vividly demonstrates how misinformation can spread,
Yeah,
particularly when it exploits existing fears and anxieties.
absolutely.
It just underscores the need for us all to be critical consumers of information.
Yeah, we got to be careful.
We have to question even the sources that align with our beliefs
Right.
and seek out diverse perspectives. It really highlights the importance of cultivating healthy skepticism, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Not just towards the things we disagree with,
Right.
but like also towards the things that kind of confirm what we already think.
Exactly. It's easy to just dismiss something as like outrageous or far-fetched.
Right.
But the Satan Seller really proves that even the most unbelievable narratives, they can take root when they tap into like our fears and desires, you know?
So what does all of this mean for us today? I mean,
Yeah.
the Satanic Panic might feel like a distant memory to some people,
Yeah.
but the forces that drove it, like misinformation and fear-mongering and like the desire for these simple answers to such complex problems,
Right.
those are still very much at play in our world today.
Absolutely. The story of the Satan Seller is like a cautionary tale,
Yeah.
a reminder that we need to be vigilant.
Right.
We got to critically evaluate all the information that we're just bombarded with every day.
It's about developing those media literacy skills. Recognizing the tactics that are used to manipulate our emotions and beliefs.
Yeah.
We can't just passively consume information.
Right.
We have to actively engage with it,
Yeah.
question it, and seek out diverse perspectives.
Think about it this way.
Yeah.
Warkey's story played on a very human tendency to seek out narratives that confirm our existing beliefs,
Yeah.
even if those narratives are false.
Right.
It kind of makes you wonder, what beliefs do we hold?
Right.
That might be based on like unexamined assumptions
Yeah,
or
yeah.
unverified information.
That's a really powerful question.
Oh, yeah.
It challenges us to really examine our own bias,
Right.
our own sources of information.
Where are we getting our information from?
Are we getting a balanced view? Are we challenging ourselves with like opposing viewpoints?
Yeah.
Or are we just surrounding ourselves with information that reinforces what we already think?
Right. It's about being willing to step outside of our comfort zones.
Yeah.
Engage with ideas that might make us uncomfortable.
Totally.
Recognize that truth is often complex and nuanced.
This deep dive has been quite a journey,
It has.
unsettling and thought-provoking, and ultimately a really powerful reminder about the importance of critical thinking.
Absolutely.
We need to be careful about the narratives we embrace,
Right.
the stories we tell ourselves,
Yeah.
and the information we allow to like shape our understanding of the world.
The story of the Satan seller reminds us that even widely accepted narratives
Yeah,
can be built on lies.
it's crazy.
It underscores the importance of seeking
All
evidence,
right.
considering multiple perspectives,
Yeah.
and approaching information with a healthy dose of skepticism.
This deep dive has been a wild ride for sure,
Oh, yeah?
filled with twists and turns and
Yeah.
like unsettling revelations.
Mhm.
But it's also been a powerful reminder about the importance of critical thinking
Absolutely.
and media literacy
Mhm.
and the need to question even the most widely accepted narratives.
So as you continue exploring the world and all the information that shapes your understanding of it,
Yeah,
remember the lessons we've uncovered here.
it's true.
Ask yourself, what narratives are shaping my worldview?
Hmm.
What are my sources of information?
Yeah.
Am I willing to question even the sources that I trust the most?
And remember, knowledge is power,
Oh, yeah.
but only when it's grounded in truth and informed by a healthy dose of skepticism.
Right.
So keep questioning,
Keep exploring
keep exploring.
and keep diving deep.
And if you're looking for more thought-provoking explorations of the topics that matter,
Yeah,
make sure to subscribe to The Deep Dive,
that's right.
where we'll dissect complex issues,
Yeah.
separate fact from fiction,
Uh-huh.
and equip you with the knowledge you need to form your own informed opinions.
Absolutely.
Until next time, stay curious.